there are well over 200 item pickups in Crab Champions, but did you know that there were actually 5 additional items in the game at one point? Yeah, I bet you didn't, Stinky. God, you're dumb. Anyway, balancing all the items in the game is naturally a pain, and every once in a while, the solo game dev and famous EDM artist Noisestorm decides that, you know what? Probably just better to completely remove the item entirely as opposed to trying to tweak the stats for the item. For whatever reason, there are some items that have been removed. So today, we're going to be taking a look at 5 of those items that have been completely removed from the game over the course of the closed beta that started back in January of 2023 up until now in the early access period in mid to late July of 2023. But before we get into it, what's up guys? My name is TheeFURNAS, your second favorite effort and the #1 source for all things Crampions. See what I did there? Crab plus champ. Anyway, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, maybe even ring that bell so you don't miss out on future guides, tutorials, dev updates, goofy gameplay, and anything else to do with the game. Now let's dive into those 5 items. Starting first, we've got Snail Shot. This is a rare weapon mod. It applied slow to enemies, and when enemies were slowed, they moved slower. Pretty straightforward, but, quote, Snail Shot has been removed as it wasn't a very compelling choice and it made enemies look very broken as they just kind of stood there and barely moved, which isn't fun to play against. So yeah, ultimately this was just too strong and there wasn't really a way to make it make sense. Now I think technically right now, all the different symbols that appear when you do elemental damage and apply elemental stacks to opponents, if you use random shot, there's some new symbols in there that aren't fire, lightning, ice, or poison. And I think the slow one is still in there technically, so I think you can still apply it, but it doesn't actually do anything. I'm not really sure, it's a little bit goofy. I think those little icons are going to be tweaked here in this upcoming update anyway, but regardless, slow is kind of just weird, and Snail Shot, a specific slow shot weapon mod, no longer in the game. Ultimately, just wasn't a perk that people cared about. No one's going to miss it. See you never. On to number 2, Lightweight. This is another perk. The last one was a weapon mod, so I don't know why I said that, but this is a rare perk that increased your jump height. It effectively made you less affected by gravity, you were lightweight, etc. But quote, the lightweight perk, which increased jump height, has been removed as it was too easy to gain flight after only a few levels, which removed most of the challenge of the game and breaks most enemy attacks. The movement in the game is very fast-paced by default, so perks that essentially allow you to fly just break all the balance. Stamina and Speed Demon remain in the game as movement perks for now. Noisestorm is not exaggerating here. When you think, oh, you can fly, like what, you're kind of flipping around a little bit? No, like you could literally just keep flipping and keep flying. You would even gain height sometimes. It was pretty insane. I've only really done a flying build once, as you can see, and it was a lot of fun. And I only had it stacked to like level 6 or 7, like truly not even pushing the boundaries there with that one. It's really fun, really goofy, but it completely breaks the game to the point where like why would you ever build into anything other than this? You know, you just fly around, you can avoid all the damage. It was broken. On to number 3, we've got Haste. This is a grenade mod, also a rare, that just reduced the grenade cooldown. Right now, if you've played the game, you know that there's 5 seconds between your grenade throws. And yes, you have Grenadier that you can throw multiple times within that 5 seconds, but then you gotta wait the cooldown. So quote, the Haste perk, which was grenade cooldowns reduced, has been removed, as after a few levels you were able to gain basically infinite grenades, which became extremely overpowered. With this removal, the Grenadier perk, which is gain 1 grenade per level, should be much more useful. And I agree. Basically, we had 2 different ways to achieve the same result, which was throwing more grenades within your cooldown period. You could spam 1, then you can spam 2, then you can spam 3, 4, so on. That's Grenadier. And then we had Haste, which was after you're done spamming, the cooldown kicks in. And it's 5 seconds, then it was 4, then it was 3, then it was 2, then it was 1. Either way, they both achieved the same thing at the end of the day. Taking one of them out's not a big deal. We're left with Grenadier. I'm fine with it. Grenades are still in a pretty good spot right now. They're not amazing, but it doesn't need to be broken with 2 perks like this. So, I get it, I get it. Moving on to number 4, we've got Longshot. This was a rare weapon mod. You'll notice most of these are rare here. I don't fully remember the exact wording of the perk. It was a little bit weird, but essentially it increased the range of projectiles. There's a lot of different ways to do that, and there are still perks in the game that do that. We'll get to that in a second here. But quote, Longshot weapon mod has been removed as it is useless on most weapons and was taking up valuable loot space in chests. It's fair enough. You know, if you have a fully automatic weapon or the burst pistol or even like the auto shotgun, the projectiles already had a long range. You could already hit something cross map if you wanted to. So getting this didn't really provide any benefit. There's no real use there. Now, obviously, something like the dual shotty or like a cluster launcher, it did help to increase the range. But remember I said there's other ways to do that. I'm talking about fast shot. Fast shot effectively does the same thing. Projectiles fly faster and are less affected by gravity. So when you get down to the code level of the game, every projectile, every bullet, every whatever has a lifespan, an amount of time that it will travel before it kind of disappears, assuming it doesn't hit anything, you know, no enemies, no collision with the environment. It doesn't just go off in infinity, it eventually just despawns, right? And making fast shot increases the speed at which it moves. So if your shot lasts for half a second and it was going X units per meter or whatever, meters per second, and now it's going more, it'll travel further distance, right? So you can still get long shot. It's just called fast shot. Long shot, in addition to fast shot, it was another situation where it was a redundant perk that didn't really need to be in the game, so we cut it out. And finally, number 5, my God, this was a smart move. Playing with power, the infamous greed perk. Remember greed perks? You almost never find them on their own, although there is a greed portal that you can find. But normally you're finding a greed totem, you roll the dice, you get a random greed perk, and they come with a big benefit, but also a big con. This one was a massive 300% damage boost. That's pretty nice. But on the flip side, you could damage yourself. Yeah, it's as bad as it seems. So quote, playing with power has been removed from the loot pool for now as it was causing a lot of accidental deaths. I'll look into improving and reworking this in the future. That was a while ago, and he has not reworked it yet, and honestly, I hope he never does. I am not exaggerating when I say that it was a 100% murdering yourself rate with this item. Not 90, not 95. I picked it up 15 to 20 times, and I ended up killing myself 15 to 20 times in the game when I had this perk. It was insane. And the reason is because a lot of the additional projectiles that you can produce with really nice weapon mods, kind of like the additional projectile like spawns like right at the barrel of the weapon, like right where your crab model is. So it just hit you instantly the second you pull a trigger. You didn't even have to shoot like an explosive at your feet. It wasn't grenade damage. It was like your arcane blast would proc and like spawn inside of your body basically, and you would just die. Firepower, piercing wave, any of these things that produce additional projectiles would just off yourself. It was ridiculous. It was super annoying. You're like, oh great, you got to get a damage boost. You'd be mid-fight, and then all of a sudden your thing would proc and you'd die. Very frustrating. But that does it for this one. I'm sure we'll continue to see more and more items get completely removed, definitely reworked. Obviously, it's a constant balancing act, and new items entirely as well. For the next big update coming in August, all we know is that it's a big graphical improvement, a graphical overhaul. It doesn't mean he's completely changing the stylized look, but it does mean that enemy models and the weapon models are going to improve. Every loot item, in theory, will have its own icon for your inventory, as well as its own 3D model when you find it in a chest. We will even see some VFX improvements and changes, and overall he's just going to polish the look and feel of the game. So I don't know if we'll find new items in this next update, but it's a big one regardless, so keep your eyes peeled. In the coming weeks I will have a video for that as well. So anyway, like this video, scroll down a little bit, click that thumbs up, subscribe while you're at it, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.